Episode 3. The Contract. For a few seconds after Adrian spoke, the room stayed quiet. Lena sat back in the chair, studying the man across from her. Up close, Adrian Voss looked even more composed than he had from across the room. His suit fit perfectly, his posture relaxed but controlled. Nothing about him seemed careless. Everything about him seems deliberate. That included the way he was looking at her now. Not casually, carefully, as if he was trying to measure something. Adrian broke the silence first. You investigated Daniel Kessler for 3 months, he said. Yes. You confirmed every source. Yes. And you're still published the story knowing it could cost you your job. Lena rested one arm along the side of the chair. I did not spend 3 months chasing evidence, just to hide it in a drawer. Adrian nodded slowly. That is what I suspected. Then why ask? Because I prefer to confirm things myself. Lena could respect that. He leaned forward slightly. You also refused to accept the settlement Kessler's lawyers offered you? That caught her attention. How do you know about that? It is my business to know things. Of course it was. The settlement had been generous, very generous. All Lena had needed to do was sign a document stating that some of the article's conclusions had been misinterpreted. In other words, she needed to lie. She had refused. You could have walked away with a large payment, Adrian continued, and let a corrupt man keep operating quietly. Yes, that would have bothered me. Adrian's eyes held hers for a moment. That is also what I suspected. Marcus approached the seating area quietly and placed a thin folder on the table between them. Adrian gestured toward it. The contract. Lena reached forward and opened the folder. Several pages of neatly printed text rested inside. She skimmed the first page. Personal writing. Agreement. 6 months. $20 per month. Her eyes stopped. She looked up. You offered 10,000. Adrian leaned back slightly. I changed my mind. Why? His expression remained calm. Because after meeting you, I believe the work will be more valuable than I originally estimated. Lena leaned back in her chair again. Or more complicated? Those two things are often the same. She continued reading. The agreement included confidentiality clauses, deadlines for manuscript drafts, and detailed payment schedules. It was a serious contract, not something thrown together quickly. You were already planning to hire me, she said. Adrian did not deny it. I like to prepare for outcomes that seem likely. Lena closed the folder gently. You still have not answered my question. Which question? Why you want a memoir? Adrian stood up from his chair. He walked slowly toward the massive windows overlooking the city. For a moment he simply looked out across the lights below. Then he spoke. People write stories about me every day. That happens when someone becomes powerful. Yes. But most of those stories are wrong. He turned slightly. I would prefer at least one version to be accurate. Lena studied him carefully. Why not write it yourself? Adrian smiled faintly. Because I'm not a writer. You built a technology empire. That is a different skill. She considered that. Why not hire a ghostwriter who specializes in biographies? I did, and they were boring. That answer made her laugh. Adrian watched her for a moment. Writers who work for powerful people tend to be careful, he continued. They avoid difficult questions. And you think I will ask them? I know you will. Marcus stepped forward quietly. Miss Moretti, he said, you should also review the final clause. She turned back to the contract. The final section was short, but it caught her attention. Immediately. Full personal access during the writing. Period. She looked up. What does that mean? It means you will have access to my schedule, my work environment, and selected aspects of my personal life while writing the manuscript. That sounds invasive. Adrian returned to his chair. You cannot write honestly about someone without understanding how they live. She studied his expression. You are inviting a journalist into your life. Yes, that seems reckless, perhaps. His gaze held hers again. But I am curious what you will discover. Lena tapped the edge of the contract lightly. You are very confident I will accept. Adrian's voice remained calm. You need the job. He was not wrong. Still, she said, this arrangement feels unusual. Most interesting things are. She leaned forward slightly. Let me be clear about something. Adrian raised an eyebrow. Go on. If I write this book, I will not turn it into propaganda. I would be disappointed if you did. I will ask uncomfortable questions. I expect that. And if I find something worth exposing, Adrian's expression did not change. Then write it. The certainty in his voice surprised her. For a moment, Lena wondered if he truly meant that dot, or if he simply enjoyed the challenge dot. She closed the folder slowly. When would the work begin? She asked. Adrian answered immediately. Tomorrow morning. That is soon. I prefer momentum. She stood from her chair. The city lights behind the windows shimmered faintly through the glass. This might be the strangest job offer I have ever received, she said. Adrian stood as well. I hope it'll also be the most interesting. Marcus stepped forward again and handed her a pen. Lena looked down at the contract one more time. $20,000 per month. 6 months. Unlimited access to the life of one of the most powerful men in the city. Curiosity tugged at her again. She signed when she finished. Adrian took the contract and glanced briefly at her signature. Then he looked back up. Welcome to Vaz Dynamics, Miss Moretti. Lena slipped the pin onto the table. Call me Lena. For the first time. Adrian's smile looked slightly warmer. Very well, he said. Lena. Outside the windows, the rain had finally stopped, but Lena had the feeling that the real storm had only just begun.